Hello and welcome to the Federal. A lot has been happening in Maharashtra with NCP in a spot of bother. Ajit Pawar has joined the BJP-led coalition and took oath as the Deputy Chief Minister. We have Puneet Yadav with us, and we'll discuss what's happening in Maharashtra and what could possibly happen in NCP. Puneet, I would like you to first explain the law. Now that Sharad Pawar has given, submitted the disqualification plea, what could possibly happen?
Legally, there are a few issues that need to be looked into. One, and particularly in the case of Maharashtra now, more so because the last major case in which, issues of defection, split, etc. came up was also Maharashtra, which was with regard to the Shiv Sena faction of Uddhav Thackeray and Eknath Shinde, the current Maharashtra chief minister. So, and that entire case, that judgment is still fresh in public memory. There are aspects of it on which action is still awaited by the Maharashtra Assembly Speaker. In Mr. Pawar's case, see, the issue here is simply of the number of MLAs that Mr. Ajit Pawar has backing him. He is claiming that he has 40 or more of the 53 total MLAs of the party backing him. That is a claim that has been disputed by Mr. Sharad Pawar and the working president of the NCP, which is Mr. Pawar's daughter, Supriya Sule, the MP from Baramati. Ideally, to escape the application of the anti-defection law under the 10th schedule of the Constitution, a political party needs to show, or the defecting MLAs need to show that they have 2/3 of the legislative party backing them. Now, roughly that calculation in the case of the NCP comes to about 36 MLAs minimum should be backing Mr. Ajit Pawar to escape the application of the anti-defection law. And by that we mean that if they defect and they have 36 or more, they will continue to be MLAs. They will not lose their membership of the Maharashtra Assembly. There is a related question which some people have been asking, which is whether the NCP led by Mr. Ajit Pawar can claim that there is a split in the party. Legally, that does not hold any ground because a split is not recognized. In 2004, the Supreme Court had given a judgment. When the Eknath Shinde Shiv Sena case, the judgment came in that judgment had been reiterated. Maybe it'll be better if I just read out one tiny excerpt from that judgment, which is specifically not to do with defection, but to do with recognizing a split of a party. Because when Mr. Shinde walked out with his MLAs, they claimed that we are a faction and we are the original Mr. Thackeray, Mr. Uddhav Thackeray's Shiv Sena is another faction and there is a split down the middle. So the split should be recognized as a separate party. So with regard to the split, in the Eknath Shinde matter, the Supreme Court had ruled, and this was a judgment authored by Justice Chandrachud, the current Chief Justice of India, where he says, broadly speaking, he talks about a split does not postulate that people who are party to the split must leave the party. The 10th schedule also operates when a group of persons, whether minority or majority, claim they belong to the same party. In the same judgment, he also, Mr. Chandrachud also pointed out that even in case there is a, somebody is claiming that there has been a split, the anti-defection law will still apply. as far as as long as you meet the criteria of a 2/3 majority of the legislative party. So if Mr. Ajit Pawar does not have 36 on his side, then he will still face anti-defection. But there is a complication that has now arisen, which is largely because not so much in the case of Mr. Ajit Pawar, but in the case of Mr. Praful Patel and Mr. Sunil Tatkare, who are both members of parliament, one in the Rajya Sabha, the other in the Lok Sabha. They're not MLAs. Because Mr. Pawar has said that he is expelling them from the party.
Right.
And a parallel appeal has also been moved to the presiding officers of the two houses of parliament to consider these as disqualified MPs. These Mr. Praful Patel in Rajya Sabha and Mr. Sunil Tatkare in Lok Sabha. Now, the complication here is that if the party has expelled them, then technically they become unattached members of parliament.
Right.
So then, because the party has expelled them, they have not been disqualified at the time when the party expelled them. They can continue to be MPs, but unattached MPs. And we have several such instances in the past where members have been disqualified by their party, but they've continued to serve their term as unattached MPs.
So they do not necessarily lose their MPship.
They will not,
because they've been expelled.
Not necessarily, they will not lose their thing, because they have to still be part of the party for disqualification to hold. Because for disqualification to hold, you have to prove that he has defied a whip or he has acted against the interests of the party with regard to the rules that are laid out or the criteria that are laid out. Here in the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha, there was no whip. You're basically expelling them for anti-party activities. Right. So, and you're expelling them before any decision has been taken on the disqualification petition.
Right.
So, I will also need to maybe read up a little more on whether there are other precedents, but this does come across as a slightly, as a slight complication in the legalities of how Mr. Praful Patel and Mr. Sunil Tatkare's case will be handled. As far as Mr. Ajit Pawar's case is concerned, petitions for their disqualification have already been moved, and the party so far has not expelled them. Mr. Ajit Pawar claims that they are the original NCP because they have the support of all the MLAs, 40 or more, and the MLCs and the members of parliament, and they have not said anything against Mr. Sharad Pawar, who's the party president, or against Supriya Sule, who's the party working president, one of the two, the other being Mr. Praful Patel, who has defected in to use the word loosely here. And also they have continued to assert that when they contest the Lok Sabha elections or the assembly elections, they will contest as NCP candidates on the symbol and the flag of the party.
Right.
So unlike Mr. Eknath Shinde, who went hammer and tongs criticizing Mr. Uddhav Thackeray, who said we are the original party, they are a faction, or they are a breakaway group, or they are the fringe. Here, the NCP MLAs are not saying that. Those who've gone with Mr. Ajit Pawar, they are saying we have done so with the blessings of Mr. Sharad Pawar. And Mr. Pawar has disagreed that this is an anti-party activity, but the party's disciplinary committee has also issued a notice. So those things have come. So in terms of the law, we will still have to wait and see because we still do not know the exact numbers. Various conflicting claims have been made. Mr. Pawar, as I said, says he has the required number. Mr. Ajit Pawar. Mr. Sharad Pawar says that I have spoken to the MLAs who've gone with Mr. Ajit Pawar and they are willing to come back. And within 3 weeks, everybody will come back.
I was going to get back to this. My question is, now Mr. Ajit Pawar has said that he has a certain number of MLAs behind him, and he's taken the big step of leaving NCP coalition and going and joining hands with the BJP coalition. But I'm sure he would have thought through this, right? He will not do this. There's a possibility that he might not have done this if he did not have the number of MLAs required for him to escape the law, or rather than escape, let's say circumvent.
Well, there is, Ashwin, the point here is every politician, or at least every smart politician, does his own calculations before taking a risky decision. The problem here is, Mr. Ajit Pawar, aside from having very unbridled ambitions and aspirations, also has a lot of skeletons in his closet. Just 2 days before this entire drama played out, and this is not the first time it has played out. In 2019, we saw that whole midnight coup sort of a situation where he went and took oath, and then the very next day, or within a matter of hours, Mr. Sharad Pawar said that no, we are not part of the BJP government. And then a lot of drama unfolded, and then the MVA was formed, and all of that happened. So the 2 days before this and this latest episode of the drama, you had the Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, criticizing the NCP as a party that has done a scam of cumulatively of over 70,000 crores. He talked about the irrigation scam in which Mr. Ajit Pawar happens to be the one of the key accused. He talked about multiple other scams and said that all of these put together amount to over 70,000 crore. Now, the interesting part is that of the 9 MLAs of the NCP, including Mr. Ajit Pawar, who've been sworn in as ministers, at least 6 of them are involved in these corruption cases.
Right.
And we have repeatedly seen over the last 8 or 9 years of how investigative agencies have been used or misused, or at least, ostensibly they've been misused to force people from the opposition bloc to either join with the BJP or ally with the BJP. Whether that is the case in Mr. Pawar's case, Mr. Ajit Pawar's case, and Mr. Chhagan Bhujbal and Mr. Praful Patel, Mr. Sunil Tatkare, Mr. Mushre, all of them, one doesn't know. But that is certainly a speculation. And given the past history of such actions, there is enough material to believe these speculations, So now the point is whether he has the required number of MLAs. Did he do these calculations? And were his calculations so perfect that he was able to hoodwink his uncle, who's considered to be the Chanakya of Maharashtra politics, who could bring together a Shiv Sena and a Congress? And, and I'm talking about Mr. Sharad Pawar here. Now, all that is a question mark, because what you may, every politician has a tendency for grandstanding. You make certain claims, hoping that those claims will give you a certain heft, and then things may become easier. When you're stuck in a tricky situation, that's a tactic that politicians often employ. Mr. Ajit Pawar may very well be employing that tactic because, we've heard these claims from him earlier also when he was sworn in as Deputy Chief Minister to Devendra Fadnavis. He said the same thing, that he's got the entire party rallying behind him. And within a matter of 72 hours, he continues to be the shortest, the man who served for the shortest period of time as Deputy Chief Minister for one of his terms. He's been Deputy Chief Minister previously also for longer terms, but this was a term for less than 80 hours as Deputy CM. So, and similar claims were made by him at that point. What we will have to wait and see, and which is what Mr. Sharad Pawar has also been saying, is that let us wait and see what happens on the floor of the House. And he has also added, saying, give me 3 weeks' time. Even if there are people who have visibly gone over to that side, I will bring them back.
Right.
They will all come back to me. I am in constant touch with them. I have been speaking to some of my sources in the NCP, and some of them have said that at least 5 to 6 of the leaders who were seen with Mr. Ajit Pawar and Mr. Praful Patel yesterday at the swearing in or in the run-up to the swearing in, have already returned to Mr. Sharad Pawar. They've been in touch with him. Mr. Sharad Pawar today was traveling because he had to go to Satara and to attend a memorial for Mr. Y.B. Chavan, who's the first Chief Minister of Maharashtra, and also a man whom Mr. Sharad Pawar held in very high esteem. And so, once Mr. Pawar returns to Pune, or if he's coming to Bombay, there is a possibility that these MLAs will come and meet him, or he will reach out to them and maybe call all of them together to meet him, or individually to meet. And the situation might change if it hasn't already changed. So, to give any definitive number right now that Mr. Ajit Pawar has 36 or 40, or Mr. Sharad Pawar has 20 or 15 or whatever, could run the risk of being misleading information, and I wouldn't want to do that. So what are the actual figures? We'll know when we know. But as of now, it's basically grandstanding. Both the camps are going to make their own claims. Ultimately, the Speaker of the Assembly, the Governor of Maharashtra, the courts will all have to go with what is there on record. So far, there is nothing on record except the 9 who have been sworn in as ministers. And because in this case, it was not a situation where the government had to prove their majority, and so letters of support had to be sought and given to the governor. The government already had a majority. And so it was only about bolstering that majority, getting more numbers. And Mr. Ajit Pawar came with his claim saying, I have 40. And he became deputy CM. He got 8 others to be included as ministers. And so there were no letters given of support to the government, by these 40 MLAs or so. We did hear about 2 months back that Mr. Ajit Pawar was taking signatures of various MLAs of the NCP, but that was in a different context, because back then the speculation was that Mr. Eknath Shinde is going to be replaced. Mr. Ajit Pawar may be made chief minister, or Mr. Fadnavis may be made chief minister with Mr. Ajit Pawar as the deputy CM. And so the arithmetics, the figures may change again for the government, and so he's taking signatures. And of course, there are again speculations that Mr. Shinde may be on his way out, and there may be a change in the power, sharing formula, etc. But then, as I said, we'll have to wait and see. As they happen, that is when we know. As of now, everything is in the realm of speculations.
Right. Thank you so much for your deep insight on this, Puneet. And let's just wait and watch what happens in Maharashtra.
Yeah, I think by this time tomorrow, many more twists may have happened.
Yeah.
And one point that I would like to mention is that, there is also a Damocles sword hanging over the Shinde government, because the Supreme Court had said, and had rather directed the Speaker of the Assembly to decide on the disqualification petitions moved against Mr. Shinde and 16 other MLAs of the Shiv Sena, and these were petitions moved by the Uddhav Thackeray faction. And the Supreme Court had used a very loose term, unfortunately, saying this should be done within a reasonable period of time. But they had not defined what this reasonable period of time should be. So what is reasonable for me may not be reasonable for you. And that has given the Speaker a lot of leeway. And he hasn't yet decided on those applications. So say the Supreme Court comes down heavily on the Speaker tomorrow or day after or a week from now, because I'm sure even the NCP matter will land up in court sooner or later. And then that case will be raked up again. And so if the Supreme Court comes down heavily and the Speaker is forced to act, the Supreme Court judgment actually, if it is followed in letter and spirit, does not give out a lot of hope to the Shinde faction with regard to the issue of disqualification. And so if the Speaker's hand is forced, and if he is, because of the judgment and the text of the judgment, is forced to disqualify the Shinde faction, at least 16 of them, from the assembly, then you will see another round of power equations playing out in Maharashtra. So this is still, as I said the other day too, that the last act in this play is still to be written. We're still somewhere in the middle. Although every time a new twist comes, speculations are that, okay, is this the end? I think that we're still, maybe just halfway through. There is still a lot more to happen.
All right, let's wait and watch. Like you said, the last act of the play. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more news and updates.